Jimin asked Jungkook about his biggest regret. The answer left fans speechless. Jimin asks Jungkook one forbidden question, and the answer uncovers a secret regret that changes everything forever. Tell me the one thing you wish you had never done. The studio lights were too bright for a question like that. They poured down from the ceiling in white heat, bleaching the edges of the room, making every expression look sharper, every silence heavier. Cameras rotated on their tracks with a low mechanical hum. Staff members froze behind monitors. Somewhere a cup of iced coffee tipped over and spilled across the floor, unnoticed. Jimin had asked it smiling. That was the dangerous part. He sat across from Jungkook at the small round table built for the anniversary interview, elbows resting casually on polished wood, fingers linked beneath his chin as if he had tossed out a harmless prompt. But there was something in his eyes, steady, searching, almost gentle, that made the room tighten around them. Jungkook did not answer. He looked down at the microphone clipped to his shirt, then at the cameras, then finally at Jimin. His jaw flexed once. The smile he wore for public appearances flickered and vanished like a light losing power. Outside, the rain struck the studio windows in silver streaks. "Are we still rolling?" Jungkook asked quietly. No one spoke. The director glanced at the producer. The producer glanced at the legal team seated in the corner. Nobody wanted to be the first person to interrupt whatever had just begun. Jimin leaned back. "Only if you want us to be." The softness in his voice made the silence worse. Jungkook let out a breath that sounded old, not tired, old, as if it had been waiting years to leave him. "My biggest regret," he said, "was the night I chose silence." Even the rain seemed to stop. No one in the room knew what he meant except Jimin. And when Jimin's eyes lowered for the first time, everyone understood that this was not a planned interview anymore. It had started 3 hours earlier with laughter. They had entered the studio shoulder to shoulder, teasing each other over wardrobe choices, sharing inside jokes with the makeup staff, pretending comfort with the practiced ease of men who had spent a decade under observation. Fans loved their chemistry because it looked effortless. Cameras loved it because it looked real. Sometimes it was both. Jimin always noticed the smallest things first. The way Jungkook tapped rhythms against his thigh when anxious. The way he rolled his shoulders before difficult conversations. The way he avoided mirrors when something was wrong. Today Jungkook had done all three. During soundcheck, he had missed cues he would never normally miss. During rehearsal, he had smiled at the wrong moments. During makeup, he had stared at his reflection as if expecting someone else to appear. Jimin said nothing then. He had learned long ago that Jungkook hated being cornered. If pushed too early, he retreated behind jokes, behind politeness, behind the carefully curated brightness millions expected from him. So Jimin waited. He waited through the scripted questions about albums and memories and funny backstage incidents. He waited through laughter, through nostalgia, through practiced sincerity. Then the producer announced they had 10 minutes left and asked if they wanted one final unscripted segment. Jimin turned to Jungkook and asked the question he had carried for 6 years. "Tell me the one thing you wish you had never done." Now the room stood on the edge of an answer. Jungkook rubbed his thumb against the ring on his finger, a simple silver band fans had debated for months without explanation. He twisted it once, then stopped. "There was a night," he said slowly, "when someone needed me to speak, just one sentence, just one truth, and I didn't." His voice was steady, but his hands were not. Jimin's own fingers tightened beneath the table. No one else understood that this conversation had roots in another city, another season, another version of themselves. Years ago, during a world tour stop in Tokyo, the group had been at its highest point publicly and lowest point privately. Fame was loud, exhaustion louder. They lived inside schedules, airports, green rooms, hotel suites with curtains that never opened. Their laughter was real, but so was the pressure. That night, a storm had hit the city. Wind battered the hotel windows 30 floors above neon streets. Thunder rolled between skyscrapers. Inside one suite, the members had gathered after rehearsal, eating convenient store snacks and pretending they were ordinary young men. Jimin remembered every detail because trauma preserves strange things. The smell of ramen broth. The blue glow of the television. The wet footprints near the doorway. and Jungkook sitting unusually still on the couch. Their manager had arrived late, angry from a phone call no one heard. He carried stress like fire, looking for somewhere to spread. Words sharpened, tempers rose, small mistakes became accusations. Then the blame turned toward Jimin. Missed timing in rehearsal, lack of focus, distracting others, carelessness. Most of it false. Some of it cruel. The room had gone silent in the way only close people can become silent, when everyone knows someone should intervene, and everyone hopes someone else will do it first. Jimin had looked at Jungkook. Not because he needed rescue. Because he needed one witness to say, that's not true. Jungkook had met his eyes. And said nothing. The memory cut both ways. Back in the studio, Jungkook swallowed. I thought staying quiet would keep peace. I thought speaking up would make everything worse. He laughed once without humor. Silence is a decision too. I learned that too late. The producer in the corner subtly signaled to cut. The director ignored him. Jimin's face remained calm, but his heartbeat was loud enough to hear in his ears. He had buried that night under years of work, forgiveness, discipline. Yet hearing it spoken aloud reopened something he thought had scarred clean. You never apologized, Jimin said. Gasps from staff, not loud but enough. Jungkook nodded, I know. Why? Because that was the real question, not what happened but what followed. Jungkook's eyes shone under the lights. Because I was ashamed. And every year I waited it became harder. I told myself you forgot, then I realized you remembered everything. Jimin looked away toward the rain-dark window. He had remembered everything. Not the accusations, those had faded. What stayed was the feeling of being alone in a crowded room. He had been angry for months afterward, then guilty for being angry, then embarrassed that it mattered so much. Over time he and Jungkook rebuilt what was easy between them, music, jokes, loyalty, instinctive care. But beneath it remained one sealed room neither entered. Until now. The studio air felt cold despite the lights. Jimin spoke carefully, do you know what hurt most? Jungkook shook his head. That I knew you wanted to speak. The words landed harder than accusation. Jungkook inhaled sharply. Jimin continued, voice quiet. If you had looked away I could have hated you, but you looked right at me, you knew. A camera operator wiped tears with the back of his wrist and kept filming. Jungkook pressed both palms flat on the table as if grounding himself. I was scared. Of him. Of becoming disappointing. He looked almost angry at himself now. I was praised for being easy, reliable, good. I thought if I challenged authority I would lose everything people liked about me. He laughed again bitterly. So I protected an image and betrayed a person. No one moved. Jimin had always known Jungkook's confidence was misunderstood. People saw talent and assumed certainty. They did not see the boy trained young to endure expectations, to absorb pressure silently, to excel before he understood who he was without applause. That was Jungkook's contradiction, brave in every visible way, frightened in invisible ones. Jimin's own flaw was different. He could forgive others faster than himself. He could carry pain elegantly until it calcified. He stood from the table. Several staff members panicked, thinking the interview had broken completely. Instead, Jimin walked around to Jungkook's side. Jungkook remained seated, eyes following him with the wary expression of someone awaiting sentence. Jimin stopped beside him. The room held its breath. Then Jimin reached down and straightened Jungkook's crooked microphone clip. You always do this when nervous, he murmured. A few stunned laughs escaped around the studio. Jungkook's shoulders shook once, whether from laughter or tears no one could tell. You're impossible, he said hoarsely. I know. Jimin pulled a second chair beside him and sat. No longer across from him but next to him. That night mattered, Jimin said, but so did every day after, the times you showed up without being asked, the apologies you made in actions because you couldn't make them in words, I noticed those too. Jungkook stared ahead, blinking rapidly. I don't need perfect people around me, Jimin continued. I need honest ones. Rain intensified against the glass, drumming like applause from another world. For the first time since the question was asked, Jungkook smiled without performance. Small, uneven, real. I was jealous of you then, he confessed. Jimin turned, surprised. You could say what you felt. You could cry, fight, heal, and move on. I thought strength meant hiding everything. You made it look like strength could be seen. Jimin considered that. It didn't feel strong. It changed me anyway. The producer finally stepped forward, whispering that they had enough footage for 3 specials, 2 documentaries, and a crisis meeting. Nobody listened. Jimin leaned back in his chair. So your biggest regret was silence? Jungkook nodded. Jimin shook his head lightly. No. Jungkook frowned. Your biggest regret was waiting this long. Then Jimin opened his arms with mock annoyance. Come here before I change my mind. Laughter broke across the studio like sunlight through cloud. Jungkook stood so quickly his chair scraped hard against the floor. He bent forward and wrapped Jimin in a fierce, graceless embrace that nearly knocked them both sideways. The microphones crackled. Staff clapped despite themselves. It was not a glamorous moment. It was better than glamorous. It was messy, human, overdue. When they separated, both were laughing now, faces bright with tears they did not bother hiding. The director whispered to no one, keep rolling forever. Later, after the lights dimmed, and the crew packed cables into black cases, Jimin stood alone by the window watching the rain soften into mist. Jungkook approached quietly, carrying 2 paper cups of tea. He offered one. Jimin accepted it without looking. Are we okay? Jungkook asked. Jimin took a sip, considering the warmth. Ginger, too much honey. Jungkook still made tea like comfort should taste sweet enough to overpower memory. We were okay before, Jimin said. Jungkook's face fell slightly. Jimin smiled into the steam. Now we're honest. Outside, dawn had begun to silver the city skyline. Inside, something old had finally ended. Not with drama, not with punishment, but with truth spoken late and received anyway. Sometimes regret is not the wound. Sometimes regret is the door left closed long after both people are ready to open it. The next morning, the headlines exploded before sunrise. Jimin asked the question no one expected. Jungkook case confession stuns staff. The interview that changed everything. Phones rang across offices. Managers shouted through conference calls. Editors clipped fragments of the footage leaked by someone on set. Fan forums ignited into war zones of theories, tears, celebration, outrage. But inside the company building, silence was far more dangerous than noise. Jungkook stood alone in the practice room, lights off except for the pale strip spilling under the doorway. His hoodie was damp from rain. He had not slept. The mirror reflected a shape more than a person. He replayed every second in his head. My biggest regret was silence. He had said it publicly. No taking it back. No hiding inside polished smiles anymore. The door opened hard enough to strike the stopper. Their senior manager entered first, face rigid, tie crooked, anger sharpened by panic. 2 executives followed behind him with tablets in hand. Jimin came last, expression unreadable. Do you understand what you've done? The manager snapped. Jungkook did not turn around. Yes. No, you clearly don't. Investors are calling. Legal is asking who approved that segment. Every media outlet wants statements. You turned a celebratory interview into a scandal. Jungkook watched himself in the mirror. I answered a question. You accused this company of mistreatment. I described one night. The manager stepped closer. You implied abuse. Jimin moved between them so fast the executives startled. He implied truth, Jimin said coldly. The room temperature seemed to drop. The manager stared at him. Stay out of this. Jimin laughed once, sharp and joyless. I was in it before you even knew my name. One executive cleared his throat nervously. Let's all calm down. No, Jimin said without looking at him. People say calm down when they want discomfort buried. Jungkook finally turned. Jimin's jaw was tight, eyes bright with controlled fury. He had always looked most dangerous when speaking softly. You want to know what amazes me? Jimin continued. A man admits regret after years of carrying it, and your first concern is market reaction. This is a business, the manager barked. No, Jimin shot back. It became a business because human beings bled first. The executives exchanged horrified glances. Jungkook stepped forward. Enough. Everyone stopped. He looked at the manager directly. For years that gaze had held obedience. Today it held something new. You're right about one thing, Jungkook said. I should have spoken earlier. The manager scoffed. You're emotional. I'm awake. The words hit harder than shouting. The manager's nostrils flared. Careful. Jungkook smiled faintly. That warning used to work. Jimin looked at him, surprised. The manager turned to Jimin. And you, smiling in public while dragging old issues out now, convenient timing. Jimin took one step closer. Say that again. Maybe this was planned, sympathy sells. The practice room erupted. Jimin lunged first, not to strike, but with enough force that two executives grabbed his arms in panic. Chairs toppled. A speaker crashed sideways. You don't get to rewrite pain as strategy, Jimin shouted. His voice cracked with years. Jungkook seized Jimin by the shoulders. Jimin. Let go. Look at me. Jimin fought for 1 second more, then froze. Jungkook held him there, breathing hard. Don't give him your anger. The manager straightened his jacket, shaken but trying to appear superior. This proves exactly why none of you should handle serious matters yourselves. Jungkook turned slowly. No, he said, this proves what fear creates. He walked to the mirrored wall and pressed a button. Security camera footage from the practice room appeared on the mounted screen above. Everyone frowned. I asked it for access an hour ago, Jungkook said. The manager's face changed. Jimin noticed first. What did you do? He asked quietly. Jungkook selected an archived folder dated 6 years earlier. Tokyo. The room stilled. How did you get that? One executive whispered. Because I stopped assuming the past disappeared. He opened the files. There they were, young, exhausted, sitting in the hotel lounge after rehearsal. Grainy footage, timestamp blinking in the corner. The manager entered the room on screen, furious. Then came the accusations. Harsh, public, humiliating. Not only toward Jimin. Toward all of them. Worthless if not perfect. Replaceable if difficult. Ungrateful if tired. The words spilled through cheap security audio like poison preserved in ice. No one in the present room moved. On screen, younger Jungkook sat frozen on the couch. Younger Jimin stared at the floor. The video ended. The silence afterward was monstrous. The manager's face had gone pale. This was private. Jimin's laugh was almost disbelieving. Private. He stepped closer, voice trembling with rage. You humiliated us in front of each other, and you call it private because cameras weren't there. The executive with glasses spoke first. Is this authentic? Jungkook handed over the file metadata printout. Verified. The second executive whispered, why was this never reported? Jimin answered without mercy. Because we were trained to survive, not complain. No one could meet his eyes. The manager straightened, trying one final defense. Pressure was different then. Everyone was under stress. I pushed because excellence was required. Jungkook's expression hardened. You confuse fear with excellence. You became stars because people like me demanded discipline. No, Jungkook said, we became stars despite people like you. Even the executives winced. The manager looked around the room and realized, perhaps for the first time in his career, authority had left him. He pointed at Jungkook. You think fans will love this rebellion, they love an image. Once they see who you really are, angry, unstable, ungrateful, they'll turn. Jungkook walked until they were inches apart. Then let them meet me. The manager had no reply. Security arrived moments later. Summoned quietly by someone no one noticed. The manager was escorted out, still shouting about contracts, loyalty, consequences, betrayal. His voice faded down the hallway. The room exhaled. One executive sat heavily in a chair. We need crisis control. Jimin gave a tired smile. Maybe try truth control. Another executive rubbed his temples. Do you realize what happens if this leaks? It already leaked, Jungkook said. The difference is whether you hide behind statements or change. That landed deeper than scandal. The executives asked for time. Meetings, reviews, internal investigations, official language for moral emergencies. They left quickly. The door closed. At last only Jimin and Jungkook remained. The practice room looked wrecked. Chairs overturned, water spilled, tension still hanging in the air like smoke. Jimin sat on the floor without elegance. I almost hit him. You missed, Jungkook said. Jimin glared, not helping. Jungkook sat beside him. For a while they listened to the hum of fluorescent lights. Then Jimin spoke quietly. Why didn't you tell me you found the footage? I wasn't sure I'd use it. You used it. I saw your face when he blamed you again. Jimin turned to him, so you became reckless. I became late. Jimin's anger faltered. That was the problem with Jungkook when he was honest. He said things too directly to resist. Jimin leaned his head back against the mirror. You know this could get ugly. It already was ugly, Jungkook said. We just decorated it. Jimin laughed despite himself. Then his laughter broke into tears. It happened suddenly, violently, as if some internal wall finally split. He covered his eyes with one hand. Jungkook panicked instantly. Jimin. I'm fine. You're crying. I noticed. Jungkook hesitated, then gently pulled Jimin's hand away. Jimin's face was wet, exhausted, furious at being vulnerable. I hate that it still hurts, he whispered. Jungkook's voice dropped. Pain doesn't expire because time passed. Jimin looked at him for a long moment. You've changed. Jungkook shook his head. No. He swallowed. I stopped pretending I had. That hit even harder. Outside, footsteps thundered in the hallway. Someone ran toward the room. The door burst open. Their youngest staff coordinator stumbled in, breathless, holding a phone. You need to see this now. He thrust the screen toward them. A new video was trending worldwide. Not the interview. Not the hotel footage. A hidden backstage clip from years ago. Jimin watched 2 seconds and went white. Jungkook grabbed the phone, eyes widening. No, he said. On screen, another secret from the past had begun to surface. And this one was far worse. Jungkook's voice came out so low it barely sounded human. The practice room seemed to tilt. On the phone screen, shaky backstage footage played beneath a flood of comments and millions of views. The camera angle was hidden, probably from a pocket or half-open equipment case. The timestamp dated back 4 years. A corridor, dim lights, voices raised. Then Jimin appeared. He was packing, visibly furious, still in stage makeup, sweat darkening the collar of his shirt. Someone off-camera said something inaudible. Jimin snapped. I'm tired of cleaning up everyone else's mess. The next seconds were worse. Jungkook entered frame, face tense. He said something too muffled to hear. Jimin turned on him. And you stop acting innocent. You always wait until things explode, then show up like a hero. The internet loved incomplete footage. The clip ended there. No context. No resolution. No explanation. Just Jimin apparently attacking Jungkook backstage while Jungkook stood silent. The comments were already vicious. Jimin was the real problem. Jungkook enduid 4 years. Fake friendship exposed. Toxic jealousy. The coordinator swallowed hard. It's climbing every second. Jimin didn't move. He looked at the screen as if it belonged to another person. Then he laughed once. That frightened Jungkook more than anger would have. Jimin. That's efficient, Jimin said quietly. One old truth comes out so another lie follows. It's edited, Jungkook said. Obviously. Then we'll say that. Jimin turned to him sharply. Will they care? No one answered. Because they all knew the answer. Truth was slow, outrage was instant. The coordinator backed toward the door. PR wants both of you upstairs now. Tell PR to wait, Jimin said. The poor man froze. Jungkook nodded gently. Give us 5 minutes. He fled. The door shut. Jimin stood motionless in the center of the room. Then suddenly he kicked a fallen chair so hard it skidded across the floor and slammed into the wall. I hate this, he shouted. The sound echoed. I hate that one clip can become a personality. I hate that strangers build prisons out of seconds. Jungkook approached carefully, then break it. With what? Jimin snapped. Another statement, another polished apology for something I didn't do. His eyes were blazing now. You know what happened that night. I know what happened. But millions won't care because anger is easier to consume than complexity. Jungkook grabbed his wrist. Not hard. Firm enough to stop him packing into pieces. I care. Jimin's face cracked. That's not enough. It is to me. The words hung between them. Jimin looked away first. He always did when something hit too close. Jungkook released him slowly. We tell the whole story. Jimin laughed bitterly. The whole story would destroy 3 other people. Then we protect names. It still implicates them. It implicates reality. Jimin stepped closer until they were inches apart. And if reality makes fans hate me? Jungkook did not blink. Then they were never loving you. The room went silent again. Jimin hated how much that mattered to him. Not because he wanted approval, because he had spent years earning affection through effort, discipline, warmth. To be reduced overnight to a villain from 10 seconds of rage felt like being erased. He whispered, I really said those words. Yes. I looked awful. Yes. I hurt you. Jungkook's jaw tightened. Yes. Jimin flinched. Then Jungkook continued. And none of those things are the full truth. That was worse than comfort, it was honest. Jimin sank down against the mirror and sat on the floor, knees up, arms around them. I remember that night, he said. His voice was smaller now. We had just finished the encore. My ankle was swollen. The stage manager lost the revised schedule. Reporters were waiting. Someone leaked private messages online. Everyone was panicking. Jungkook sat across from him. And I disappeared, he said. Jimin's eyes lifted. You didn't disappear. I did. He exhaled slowly. That was the night I almost left. Jimin stared. What? Jungkook looked at his hands. I packed a bag. The words knocked all air from the room. You're lying. I wish I was. Jimin stood so fast he nearly slipped. You almost left the group and never told me. I almost left everything. Why? Jungkook's face hardened with old pain. Because I was drowning. The confession arrived raw. No sleep, no privacy, panic attacks before shows, smiling through nausea, hearing 10,000 people scream my name while feeling nothing. I thought something was broken in me. Jimin's anger evaporated into shock. You never said any of this. You were injured, others were struggling. I told myself I could carry it quietly. He smiled without joy. I'm talented at looking okay. Jimin paced once, then stopped. So backstage that night. I told you I was leaving after the show. Jimin's lips parted. Memory rearranged itself in real time. The corridor. The shouting. The rage. Not random cruelty. Panic. You said it like a joke, Jimin whispered. I hoped you'd laugh and stop me. Jimin covered his mouth. Instead, he had exploded. Because he thought Jungkook was being selfish, dramatic, impossible. He had no idea Jungkook was confessing collapse. Jimin's knees nearly gave out. He sat again. Oh my God. Jungkook looked away. You yelled I deserved some of it. No. I had hidden too much. No, Jimin's voice broke. I should have seen you. Heat rushed behind his eyes. I always say I notice everything. I noticed schedules, injuries, moods, meals, rehearsals, but I didn't see you drowning. Jungkook leaned forward instantly. Don't do that. Do what? Turn regret into self-punishment. Jimin laughed through tears. You know me too well. I had years of study. Despite everything, Jimin almost smiled. Then the door burst open again. This time 3 executives entered with security, and 2 PR directors carrying laptops. We're out of time, one executive said sharply. You need to issue a response now. No, Jimin said. The room blinked. The PR director forced a smile. This is urgent. No, Jimin repeated. We've drafted something neutral. Misunderstanding between friends, old stress, no ongoing conflict. No. The executive's patience snapped. You are not in a position to dictate strategy. Jungkook stood beside Jimin. Then neither are you. The executive stared. Excuse me. You've spent years managing surfaces, Jungkook said. Look where it got us. The PR director thrust a tablet forward. Please just read this. Jimin took it. Read 1 line. Then calmly dropped it face down on the floor. Gasps. It says I regret causing concern, Jimin said. I regret wasting oxygen on that sentence. The executive's face reddened. This is exactly the attitude in that video. Jimin took 1 dangerous step forward. You want attitude, keep talking. Security tensed. Jungkook moved between them before anyone became history. Enough, he said. Everyone stopped. His voice had changed. No longer defensive, no longer uncertain. Commanding. We will respond live. The PR team recoiled. Absolutely not. We are not improvising to millions. It's too risky. Jungkook's stare cut through them. Editing created this, unedited will end it. The executive scoffed, and if you say the wrong thing. Jungkook smiled faintly. Then for once it'll be my own mistake. Jimin looked at him. There it was again, that new thing. Not rebellion. Ownership. Within 30 minutes they were in a broadcast room. No stage design, no glamour, just 2 chairs, 2 microphones, 1 camera, a black backdrop. Numbers on the monitor climbed insanely fast. Millions joining live. Comments racing faster than reading. Jimin's hands were cold. Jungkook noticed and wordlessly covered one with his own. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2. Red light. Live. Jungkook looked straight into the lens. You saw a clip, he said, now hear the night. The comments exploded. Jimin inhaled and spoke next. Yes, I shouted at him. Yes, I was angry. Because he told me he wanted to leave everything and I was too scared to hear what he actually meant. Silence in the control room. Jungkook continued. I was struggling mentally. I hid it badly. Jimin reacted badly. Then he spent the rest of the night helping me breathe through a panic attack off camera. The comments slowed. Then surged. Jimin swallowed hard. He stayed with me until sunrise, Jungkook said. So if you want the truth, post the whole thing. Jimin turned to him, stunned. You remember that? I remember every minute. Jimin's eyes filled. Because he had forgotten the good part. Memory often preserved shame and discarded tenderness. A producer whispered from behind glass, we're trending globally. Neither cared. Then a new comment pinned itself at the top, from a verified former staff member. They're lying, I was there, that's not what happened. The room froze. Another message followed. And another. Former insiders. Anonymous accounts. Someone was organizing this in real time. Trying to bury them again. Jungkook leaned closer to the microphone. Whoever is doing this, he said softly, come say it with your real name. The comments went berserk. Then the studio lights suddenly cut out. Total darkness. Someone screamed in the control room. Emergency alarms began to ring. Darkness swallowed the room so completely that for 1 second no one knew if they were breathing. Then the emergency alarms started shrieking. Red backup lights flashed in violent pulses, turning faces into fragments and shadows into threats. The livestream camera toppled with a metallic crash. Somewhere behind the glass wall, people shouted over one another. Jimin's first instinct was not fear. It was Jungkook. Jungkook, I'm here. A hand found his wrist instantly in the dark. Firm, warm, real. Jimin exhaled hard. The control room door burst open. Staff stumbled into the studio, lit by phone flashlights. One producer was crying. Another kept yelling for security. Someone had blood running from a cut over their eyebrow. What happened? Jungkook shouted. The system was manually shut down, the producer said breathlessly. Main power didn't fail, someone killed it from inside. Every head turned. Inside. Not accident. Sabotage. The executive who had argued earlier shoved through the crowd, face pale with fury. Lock every floor, nobody leaves. Security radios crackled everywhere. Jimin's jaw tightened. You think someone in the building did this? I know someone did. Jungkook stepped toward him, then stop yelling and start using names. The executive snapped back instantly. Watch your tone. No, Jungkook said, you watch your priorities. The red emergency light flashed across his face, making him look carved from something harder than before. You were more worried about statements than truth. Now our broadcast gets cut the second we challenge hidden accounts. Convenient. The room went still. The executive stared. Are you accusing me? I'm accusing everyone who protects systems until systems attack. Jimin almost smiled despite the chaos. There he is, he thought. The version of Jungkook fear had delayed for years. A security officer approached. We found the breaker room open. CCTV looped for 7 minutes. Looped, the producer said. Someone replaced live feed with recorded footage. Professional. Planned. Not random sabotage. Jimin crossed his arms, so whoever did this knew the building. The executive rubbed his temples. This is becoming criminal. Jimin shot back. It was criminal before the lights went out. Another voice rose from the doorway. Then maybe you should call the police. Everyone turned. A man in a dark coat stood there, rainwater dripping from the hem. Mid-40s, sharp features, calm eyes. He carried no ID badge, yet security behind him looked strangely uncertain. Jungkook's expression changed first. Not fear. Recognition. You. Jimin looked between them. Who is that? The man stepped into the pulsing red light. My name is Kang Minseok, he said, former crisis consultant for this company. A collective murmur spread. Former. Jimin narrowed his eyes. Why are you here? Because someone finally forced old doors open. The executive went white. Get him out. Minseok smiled faintly, still allergic to accountability. Director Han. That landed like a slap. The executive Han lunged forward. Security intercepted him. You signed an NDA, Han hissed. And you violated laws, Minseok replied calmly. The room erupted with overlapping voices. Jungkook stepped forward. What do you know? Minseok looked directly at him, enough to explain why hidden accounts attacked you tonight. Jimin's pulse spiked. Say it. They are part of an old monitoring network. No one moved. Han barked a laugh too loud to be real. Ridiculous. Minseok ignored him. Years ago, the company hired external teams to shape narratives online. Positive trends, rumor suppression, fan manipulation, distraction campaigns. Standard industry dirt. The producer whispered no. Minseok continued. When scandals threatened revenue, they also used anonymous accounts to discredit witnesses, divide fans, and redirect blame. Jimin felt nausea rise. You're saying troll farms? I'm saying organized perception management. Han roared, lies. Minseok's eyes sharpened, then deny the code name Black Tide. Han froze. That tiny hesitation detonated the room. Several staff physically stepped away from him. Jungkook spoke slowly, Black Tide. The internal operation used during crisis years, Minseok said. Tonight's comments matched archived behavior patterns, same language templates, same burst timing, same intimidation tactics. Jimin laughed once in disbelief. So when people thought fans hated us. Sometimes they did, Minseok said. Sometimes they were guided. The horror of it spread gradually. Not one betrayal. Thousands. Years of emotional weather artificially seeded. Jimin's voice trembled with anger. How many times? Minseok held his gaze, more than you'd want to know. Han snapped, enough. He shoved security aside and pointed at Minseok. You took money too, don't pretend purity. Minseok nodded once, I did. Silence. I was excellent at justifying it, we all were. The honesty made him more dangerous than denial. Then why come now, Jungkook asked. Minseok looked tired for the first time. Because my daughter asked me last week what I did for work. No one spoke. I realized I had no answer fit for a child. Even Han looked shaken. Jimin stepped closer, do you have proof? Minseok reached inside his coat. Security surged. He slowly removed a flash drive. I copied archives before resigning. Han lunged with startling speed. Jungkook intercepted him. They crashed into a table, microphones scattering. Han swung wildly. Jungkook blocked one strike, took another to the shoulder, then shoved him back hard enough to send him sprawling into a chair. Enough, Jungkook thundered. The entire studio froze. Han panted on the floor, tie hanging loose, dignity gone. Jimin had never heard Jungkook use that voice. Neither had Han. Security restrained the director at last. Jungkook stood over him, chest rising hard. You built careers by frightening exhausted kids, he said quietly. Look at you now. Han spat blood from a split lip. Without men like me you'd be nothing. Jimin answered before Jungkook could. No. He crouched to meet Han eye level. Without people like you, maybe we'd have been human sooner. Han looked away. Minseok handed the flash drive to Jimin. Don't give it to legal, he said, they'll bury it. The executive team erupted in protest. Jimin pocketed it. Then it's safe. The producer looked near collapse. What do we even do now? Jungkook glanced at the dead livestream camera. We go live again. Half the room shouted no. Jimin said yes. Everyone stared at him. His face had changed, no softness left, no hesitation. You wanted statements, here's mine. He turned to the nearest backup camera, still dark but connected to emergency power. Get me on lines. The technician stammered, systems unstable. Then stabilize faster. Something in his tone made people move. Within minutes a stripped-down emergency feed flickered onto screens worldwide. Grainy image, red backup lights, messy room, security holding a disgraced executive, staff crying, cables everywhere. Reality looked terrible. Reality looked convincing. The viewer count exploded beyond the previous stream. Jimin stepped into frame first. You wanted drama, he said. Here is the unedited version. Comments raced like fire. Jungkook joined him. Our stream was sabotaged from inside the building. Shock flooded the feed. Han shouted from off-camera, you can't prove that. Jimin pointed without looking. That voice belongs to director Han, keep recording. The comments became chaos. Minseok entered frame. Gasps online. He introduced himself and with terrifying calm described Black Tide. The world listened. Han screamed legal threats. No one cared. Then Jimin did something even Jungkook didn't expect. He reached into his pocket, pulled out the flash drive and held it to camera. If this feed cuts again, he said, copies go public automatically. Minkook blinked. Jungkook turned sharply. Copies. Jimin murmured without moving his lips, I lied. Jungkook almost laughed in disbelief. Even now. Even here. Still dramatic. Han went silent. That silence told everyone enough. Then a notification appeared on the monitor. Police units had entered the building. Someone in staff had called them during the chaos. Sirens wailed faintly below. Jimin looked at Jungkook. You okay? My shoulder hurts. You still look smug. I am smug. Jimin's mouth twitched. Then another notification flashed. A new upload had gone live from an unknown account. Title Full Tokyo FILES. Minkook's face drained of color. That shouldn't exist. Jungkook turned sharply. What files? Minkook whispered, the recordings no one was supposed to survive. Jimin's heartbeat stopped for a second. How many recordings were there? Minkook met his eyes. More than just Tokyo. The monitor refreshed. Millions were already watching. And the first thumbnail showed 7 younger faces inside a locked dorm room, all of them crying. No one touched that screen. Jungkook's voice cracked across the room like glass breaking. But it was too late. The thumbnail had already spread to every device in the studio, every newsroom, every fan account, every phone vibrating in trembling hands around the world. 7 younger faces. A locked dorm room. All of them crying. The title beneath it burned like acid. Full Tokyo FILES, what they hid from you. Jimin felt his stomach turn. Because he knew that room. Small kitchen table. Cheap grey curtains. A dent in the refrigerator door from when someone kicked it by accident during rehearsal frustration. The dorm they had once called home because they lacked anything grander. The place where dreams were built and broken in equal measure. The emergency livestream was still running. Millions were watching them watch it. Kill the feed, one executive whispered. No, Jimin said instantly. Han, still restrained on the floor, laughed through split lips. Yes, let them see what idols really are. Jungkook turned so sharply security flinched. You should be quiet while luck still protects you. Han smiled wider. There he is, the temper you sold as innocence. Jungkook took one step. Jimin grabbed his arm. Not him. For one dangerous second, Jungkook looked ready to rip years apart with his bare hands. Then he exhaled. Not him. The technician's hands shook over the console. Do I play it? No one answered. Minkook did. If we don't, someone else will. Jimin hated that he was right. Play it, Jimin said. The room darkened around the monitor glow. The footage began. Grainy handheld video, date stamp from nearly a decade earlier. The dorm living room was cramped, messy, alive with exhaustion. Bags piled near the door, laundry on a chair, instant noodle cups on the counter. Younger versions of them filled the room. One sat on the floor with head bowed. One paced. One cried openly. One punched a pillow again and again. And there was Jimin. Young, thinner, eyes swollen. And Jungkook. Barely more than a boy, standing near the wall like he wanted to disappear into it. Then the audio sharpened. We can't keep doing this, one of the members said. Another voice, then what, quit. A third voice breaking, I haven't seen my family in months. Jimin closed his eyes. He remembered this night. The night after a showcase failure. The night debt numbers were shown to them. The night someone said success might never come. On screen, younger Jimin suddenly stood. I'll leave. The present room gasped. Even Jungkook stared. Young Jimin's voice trembled with conviction and pain. If one less person means less burden, I'll go. Present-day Jimin whispered, no. He had forgotten saying it out loud. The video continued. Chaos erupted in the dorm. Someone shouted no. Someone cried harder. Someone cursed the company. Then younger Jungkook spoke from the wall. Quietly. If he goes, I go too. The studio froze. Jimin's eyes snapped to the screen. Young Jungkook looked terrified after saying it, like the sentence escaped before permission. But he repeated it louder. If he leaves, I leave. The younger room went silent. Even in the present, no one breathed. Jimin turned slowly toward Jungkook. You never told me. Jungkook could not look at him. I forgot they recorded that. You never told me, Jimin repeated, voice cracking. Jungkook swallowed. There were many things I never said. On screen, younger Jimin stared at younger Jungkook in stunned disbelief. Then sat down and burst into tears. The footage cut abruptly. The room in the present remained silent for several seconds after black screen. Then the comments on the live stream exploded beyond readable speed. He was going to leave. Jungkook would have left too. They were kids. What kind of system was this? Jimin turned away, covering his mouth. He had spent years believing he carried certain nights alone. Now memory was rearranging itself into something almost unbearable. Jungkook had chosen him publicly before either of them knew how to say care safely. And Jimin never knew. Han laughed again from the floor, weaker now but vicious. See, fragile boys threatening to quit, you should thank us for hardening you. This time Jimin moved first. He crossed the room in 3 strides and grabbed Han by the collar. Security shouted. No one was fast enough. Jimin dragged Han halfway upright. You watch children break, Jimin said, voice shaking with fury, and called it training. Han smirked bloodily, and now you sell the tears. Jimin's fist clenched. Jungkook seized his wrist before it flew. Their eyes met. Jimin were full of murder and grief. Don't save him, Jimin whispered. I'm saving you. The line shattered something inside him. Jimin released Han with a shove so hard the chair toppled backward. Security hauled the director away for real this time. His voice faded down the hall in curses and threats. No one listened. Jimin stood trembling. Jungkook stepped closer. Breathe. I am breathing. You're shaking. I know. Then, without warning, Jimin shoved Jungkook in the chest. Not hard enough to hurt. Hard enough to accuse. You idiot. Jungkook blinked. What? You absolute idiot. Another shove. You said that then and never told me. Jungkook rubbed his chest. This feels mixed message. I thought I was disposable. The room went still again. There it was. The oldest wound. Jimin's voice broke completely. I thought everyone would survive easier without me. For years part of me still thought that. And you stood there saying you'd leave too and you never told me. Jungkook's face crumpled with regret. I was 14, I barely knew how to talk. You learned later. I know. Then why hide it? Because it sounded selfish. Jimin laughed through tears. Choosing me sounded selfish. No, Jungkook said desperately, needing you did. The words hit like thunder. Nobody in the room moved. Even the comments online seemed irrelevant for a moment. Jimin stared at him. Jungkook looked horrified at himself, as if he had dropped something fragile in public. He tried to recover. I mean as a teammate, as a person in the group, I meant. I know what you meant, Jimin said softly. But his own heartbeat betrayed him. Minkook quietly gestured to staff to lower cameras. The producer whispered, "We're still live." No one touched anything. Truth had become larger than protocol. Jimin wiped his face angrily. You choose incredible moments to become honest. Jungkook let out a broken laugh. I'm working on timing. Jimin stepped closer. Do you know what else I remember from that era? Jungkook shook his head. You stealing my hoodie every winter. That was survival. You denying it while wearing it. It was my hoodie spiritually. A ripple of laughter broke tension across the room. Then Jimin's smile vanished. I also remember waking up some nights and hearing someone crying in the bathroom with the tap running. Jungkook's eyes lowered. I thought it was me, Jimin said. Silence answered. Jimin inhaled sharply. All those nights. Jungkook shrugged weakly, thin walls. Jimin looked destroyed. You were a child. So were you. The sentence cut both ways. Police entered then, uniformed, serious, stunned by the scene they walked into. Active live stream, crying celebrities, executives panicking, security dragging leadership away. One officer approached carefully. We need statements from everyone. Jimin nodded numbly. Another officer spoke to Minkook about the files. Then a younger female officer looked at Jungkook's bruised shoulder. You need medical attention. I'm fine. She gave him a look that suggested she had met many stubborn men before. You're bleeding through your shirt. Jimin turned instantly. What? Jungkook glanced down. Oh. Jimin's expression darkened. Oh. It seems less dramatic when I say it casually. You got hit and said nothing. We were busy exposing systemic corruption. Jimin grabbed his sleeve and pulled him toward the exit. Move. Jimin. Now. The room watched them go. Even in crisis, some dynamics never changed. They reached the medical room 2 floors down. Quiet, sterile, fluorescent lights humming overhead. Jimin yanked open a cabinet for bandages. Jungkook sat on the examination bed. You're angry again, he said. I contain multitudes. You're crying again too. I contain moisture. Despite pain, Jungkook laughed. Jimin peeled back the torn fabric at his shoulder and froze at the swelling bruise. His touch became instantly gentle. That man hit you hard. I've heard worse. Not the point. Jimin cleaned the scrape in silence, jaw clenched. Then quietly. Did you mean it? Jungkook knew exactly which question. Back in the dorm. If he leaves, I go too. Yes. No hesitation. Jimin's hands stopped moving. Why? Jungkook stared at the floor. Because that place already felt impossible. Without you it felt empty too. Jimin's breath caught. He resumed bandaging because looking up felt dangerous. Outside the room, footsteps rushed by, phones ringing, history shifting. Inside, only the sound of tape tearing. Then Jimin spoke so softly Jungkook almost missed it. If I had known, I would have stayed for different reasons. Jungkook looked up sharply. Before he could answer, the medical room television flickered on automatically. Breaking news banner. Another leak had dropped. This time not video. Audio. And the label on the file made both of them go cold. Private call Jimin and Jungkook never released. Turn it off. Jimin's voice was immediate, sharp enough to slice the sterile air in half. The television volume continued rising automatically as the newsroom anchor spoke over the breaking banner. Private call Jimin and Jungkook never released. Jungkook stood so fast the medical bed wheels screeched backward. Turn it off. He grabbed the remote but the battery cover slid loose and clattered to the floor. The screen kept playing. The anchor's tone carried that polished excitement reserved for public disasters. An anonymous source has leaked what appears to be a private phone conversation between the 2 stars during a critical period in their careers. Jimin crossed the room and yanked the power cable from the wall. The screen went black. Silence hit hard. Both of them stood breathing heavily. Jimin's hands shook. Jungkook stared at the dead television as if it might revive and betray them again. Then a phone on the counter buzzed. Another. Then both their phones at once. Notifications poured in like hail. Someone had already uploaded the audio everywhere. Jimin closed his eyes. Of course. Jungkook's jaw flexed. We need to hear it. No. We need to know what they're hearing. Jimin looked at him sharply. I know what call that is. Jungkook's expression changed. Slowly. Which one? Jimin said nothing. That silence was answer enough. Jungkook took one step closer. Jimin. It was after Busan. Memory moved through the room like cold wind. Jungkook's face drained. No. Yes. No, that call was deleted. I deleted mine. They stared at each other. Because both knew what had been said that night. And both knew why it was never meant for anyone else. Jungkook swallowed. Play it. Jimin laughed once in disbelief. You enjoy suffering. Play it. Jimin unlocked his phone with trembling fingers. Every platform was flooding with clips, reaction edits, slowed versions, translated captions, truth already shredded into entertainment. He found the original upload. Pressed play. Static. Then breathing. Then younger Jungkook's voice, low and wrecked. I can't do this anymore. The room vanished around them. Jimin remembered exactly where he had been when the call came. Hotel balcony, midnight wind, city lights below. He had answered on the second ring because something in the first ring sounded wrong. On the recording, younger Jimin spoke carefully. What happened? I messed up rehearsal again. That's not a reason to sound like this. It's not rehearsal. Long pause. Then Jungkook whispered. I don't know who I am when nobody's cheering. Present day Jungkook covered his face. Jimin stared at the phone. He had forgotten the exact wording. Forgotten how naked the pain sounded. The recording continued. Jimin's younger voice softened. You're tired. No, you're scared. Another pause. Then the line that made both of them freeze. I think I only exist when people need something from me. Jungkook turned away violently. Stop it. Jimin didn't stop it. He couldn't. Because this was not scandal. This was evidence of survival. The younger Jimin on the call inhaled sharply, then said, Then I need you for nothing. Jungkook looked back. The room held still. The audio played on. I need you when you fail, when you're silent, when you're annoying, when you're lost. I need you when there's no stage. Jimin's own present voice broke in a whisper. I said that. You did, Jungkook said hoarsely. The younger Jungkook on the recording started crying quietly. Not dramatic sobs. The sound of someone trying not to be heard. Then he asked the question that now ricocheted through the internet. Why are you always there? The younger Jimin answered instantly. Because no one was there enough for me. The recording ended. The room was silent except for both of them breathing. Jimin lowered the phone slowly. Outside the medical room, footsteps rushed, alarms beeped, people shouted into radios. Inside, the past sat between them in perfect clarity. Jungkook spoke first. I didn't remember all of it. I did. You said you knew which call it was. I knew the moment they wrote never released. Jungkook laughed bitterly, dramatic criminals. Then his face hardened. They stole that from us. Jimin nodded. Yes, but something in his eyes was elsewhere. Jungkook noticed immediately. What? Jimin sat down heavily in the chair by the sink. I also forgot something. What? Jimin looked up. That wasn't the end of the call. Jungkook went still. What happened after? Jimin's mouth tightened. You told me something. Jungkook frowned. I don't remember. You said, Jimin hesitated for the first time all day. You said if I ever left too, there'd be nothing worth staying for. Jungkook stared. Then looked away. That sounds like me when emotionally unstable. It was. Good, great, excellent. Jimin almost smiled despite himself. Then his phone rang. The caller ID froze both of them. Mother. Jimin answered instantly. Mom. Her voice trembled with concern. Are you okay? Why is everyone sending me clips? Why are strangers discussing your tears? Jimin's face softened in a way it rarely did in public. I'm okay. Are you lying to comfort me? A little. Then stop. Even Jungkook smiled. His mother continued, do you need me there? Jimin's eyes strung unexpectedly. No, but thank you. A pause. Then gently. You always try to carry storms quietly, you don't have to. Jimin closed his eyes. I know. When he hung up, the room felt smaller. Jungkook spoke softly, she's right. Don't team up with my mother. She'd win. Before Jimin could answer, the door burst open. The PR director stormed in with 2 assistants and enough panic for all 3. We need immediate containment. Jimin didn't move, try a lid. This is serious. Yes, Jimin said, that's why jokes help. The director thrust a tablet toward them. Public sentiment is split, some are sympathetic, some think the audio is manipulative, some think you scripted vulnerability. Jungkook barked a disbelieving laugh, scripted depression. Please don't phrase it like that. How should I phrase exploitation? The director ignored him. We need a clean narrative now, something simple. Friendship, hardship, resilience, no more surprises. Jimin stood. The director involuntarily stepped back. You keep asking for simple because complicated truth scares you. It confuses the public. No, Jimin said, it inconveniences management. The director's voice sharpened. Do you want your legacy destroyed in 1 week? Jimin's eyes went cold. My legacy is not your spreadsheet. The assistants looked ready to evaporate. Jungkook leaned against the wall, shoulder bandaged, strangely calm now. You know what's funny, he said. No, and this isn't the time. It's exactly the time. He stepped forward. For years you all taught us to fear public disappointment. But every time something real happens, people respond more humanely than you do. The director scoffed, you're naive. No, Jungkook said, I was trained by cynics. That one landed. The director tried another tactic. If more files exist, we need to know what secrets could surface. Jimin's expression changed. Not anger. Something more dangerous. Understanding. You still think the threat is secrets. The director blinked. Jimin stepped closer. The threat is what was done to create them. He turned to Jungkook. They recorded dorms, calls, backstage corridors. Jungkook's eyes narrowed. They built archives on us. The director said nothing. Which was answer enough. Jimin's voice dropped. How high did it go? I don't know what you mean. How high? The director's composure cracked for the first time. I wasn't there then. But you know. Silence. Jungkook moved to the door and shut it. Softly. The click sounded louder than shouting. The assistants panicked. Sir. Jungkook smiled without warmth. Nobody's trapped, relax yet. The director's throat bobbed. There were security protocols. What protocols? Jimin asked. Risk monitoring. What does that mean? The director looked at the floor. Executives wanted leverage. The room changed temperature. Jimin's voice was barely audible. Leverage. Behavioral records, conflicts, vulnerabilities, anything that could predict contract risk. Jungkook stared at him. You catalogued our weaknesses. It was before my authority. You used the files anyway, Jimin snapped. The director said nothing. Again, answer enough. Jungkook laughed softly. All the staff in the doorway took one instinctive step back. Because that laugh sounded worse than rage. I spent years wondering why private insecurities came back to me through official advice, he said. Why managers knew fears I never spoke publicly. The director whispered, I'm sorry. No, Jungkook said, you're cornered. Jimin opened the door. Get out. The director fled with his assistants. Silence returned. Jungkook sat slowly on the bed. For the first time all day, he looked exhausted beyond posture. Jimin crossed to him. You okay? No. Good, honest answer. My chest feels strange. Jimin froze. Strange how? Like pressure. From stress. Probably. Jimin was already at the door shouting for medical staff. Within seconds nurses rushed in, followed by the same young officer from earlier. They checked vitals rapidly. One nurse looked up serious. His pulse is irregular. Jimin's blood ran cold. What does that mean? It means hospital now. Jungkook protested weakly. This is dramatic. Jimin leaned over him. You lose all rights to critique drama. They loaded him onto a mobile stretcher despite complaints. As they wheeled him through hallways swarming with police and media staff, phones lifted everywhere. Someone shouted questions. Someone cried. Someone applauded. Jimin walked beside the stretcher gripping the rail. Jungkook looked up at him. If I die from stress, haunt the PR team. You're not dying. You sound unconvinced. I sound murderous. Even pale, Jungkook smiled. At the elevator doors, Minkook appeared, raincoat gone, expression grave. I found where the leaks are coming from. Jimin looked up sharply. Who? Minkook hesitated. Then said the one name neither of them was prepared to hear. It's someone from your own group. It's someone from your own group. The hallway seemed to lose gravity. The stretcher wheels stopped. Even the nurses froze. Jimin's grip tightened so hard on the rail that his knuckles whitened instantly. Jungkook, pale beneath the fluorescent lights, pushed himself halfway upright despite the nurse protesting. What did you say? Minkook did not repeat himself immediately. He looked like a man who knew that truth sometimes arrives as violence. Jimin stepped forward. No games, say the name. Minkook exhaled slowly. I'm not certain enough to accuse publicly. Then don't speak dramatically, Jimin snapped. Speak clearly. The elevator doors opened behind them with a soft chime no one acknowledged. Minkook lowered his voice. The leak routes passed through an old archive account. Someone with intimate access reactivated it. Access logs connect to a device used recently by a member account. Jungkook's expression hardened. Which member? I need 2 more hours to verify. Jimin laughed once, sharp and dangerous. You drop a grenade beside a hospital stretcher and ask for patience. The nurse interrupted firmly. He needs treatment now. No one is going anywhere, Jimin said without looking. The nurse stared at him. I don't care who you are. That almost broke the tension. Almost. Jungkook spoke quietly. Jimin. He turned instantly. Go. What? Go with him, find out. I'm not leaving you. You're not useful hovering while I get an ECG. I can be emotionally useful. You're emotionally loud. Jimin glared. Jungkook managed a weak smile. Please. That one word carried years. Jimin looked between him and Minkook. Then back to Jungkook. If you collapse, I'll be furious. If I collapse, I'll be unconscious. I'll still be furious. The nurse pushed the stretcher toward the elevator. Jungkook's hand reached out. Jimin caught it. For 1 second, neither cared who watched. Then the doors closed. Jimin stood staring at his own reflection in the steel panels after Jungkook disappeared. Minkook spoke carefully. We need to move. Jimin turned with ice in his eyes. If this is wrong, I bury you myself. Fair. They drove through rain in a black company van with no logos. The city outside looked smeared by water and neon, like someone had painted panic across glass. Jimin sat in the passenger seat, jaw clenched, scrolling headlines. Betrayal inside the group. Who is the secret leaker? Jungkook rushed for medical check. Old files keep emerging. He threw the phone onto the dashboard. They're turning suspicion into entertainment already. That's what vacuums do, Minkook said from the back seat. They fill. Then fill it with facts. I'm trying. Jimin turned halfway around. Who do you suspect? Minkook hesitated. That depends. On what? Whether motive was money, revenge or protection. Jimin frowned. Protection. Some people leak truth to expose corruption. By releasing private pain. Yes, which is why motive matters. The van stopped outside an apartment complex far from the company district. Jimin looked up. He recognized it instantly. No. Minkook nodded once. Yes. Jimin got out before the engine fully died. Rain hit hard and cold. He crossed the lot in long strides, entered the building, ignored the elevator, took the stairs 2 at a time. Minkook followed. 3rd floor. Apartment 307. Jimin pounded the door. No answer. Again. Open it. Locks clicked. The door opened 3 inches. Then wider. Taehyung stood there in grey sweatpants and an oversized sweater, hair damp, expression unreadable. Jimin stopped cold. Of all the names his mind had feared, this one landed strangest. Taehyung looked from Jimin to Minkook. You brought a villain-looking stranger to my apartment at midnight. Bold. Jimin shoved past him. Taehyung shut the door slowly behind them. The apartment smelled of coffee and rain. Music played low from another room, warm lighting, paintings stacked against a wall. Too peaceful. Too normal. Jimin turned sharply. Did you leak the files? Taehyung blinked once. Then laughed in disbelief. That's your hello. Answer me. No. Too fast. Too clean. Jimin stepped closer. Don't lie. Taehyung's smile vanished. Careful. Minkook remained by the door observing. Jimin's voice rose. Jungkook is in the hospital, our private calls are online, dorm footage is everywhere, and logs point to a member account. Taehyung's eyes flickered. There it is, Jimin said, you know something. Taehyung turned away and walked to the kitchen island. He poured water into a glass with infuriating calm. Sit down. Jimin slapped the glass from his hand. It shattered across the floor. Don't test me tonight. Silence. Taehyung looked at the broken glass. Then at Jimin. When he spoke, the warmth was gone. I know you're scared, but if you break one more thing in my house, I'll help you be scared outside. The air crackled. Minkook took one cautious step forward. Both of you need to. Stay out of it, they said together. Then both glared at each other for matching. Taehyung exhaled through his nose. I did not leak the files. Then why did your face change when I mentioned logs? Because I know whose account was used. Jimin's chest tightened. Whose? Taehyung hesitated. Then, mine. The room went dead still. Minkook straightened sharply. Jimin's voice dropped to a whisper. Explain. Taehyung leaned against the counter. Someone cloned an old device token tied to my archived credentials. It pinged 2 weeks ago. I thought it was system residue. You thought identity theft involving secret archives was residue. I thought the company was cleaning old servers. Jimin stared at him. That is the dumbest intelligent thing I've heard this year. I've been busy. Busy being suspiciously calm. Taehyung's jaw tightened. Busy helping someone who asked me not to say anything. Jimin froze. Who? Taehyung looked at Minkook. Then back to Jimin. Jungkook. The name hit like a collision. Jimin took 2 steps back. No. Yes. No. Taehyung's own patience snapped. Would you stop answering before hearing? Jimin's breathing grew shallow. What do you mean helping him? Taehyung ran a hand through his hair. 3 weeks ago he came here. Alone, looked terrible. Said he found evidence of archive surveillance and wanted to know if I remembered old passwords, devices, backup systems. Minkook muttered he was tracing access. Taehyung nodded. He thought someone inside was preparing leaks. Jimin's voice shook. Why didn't he tell me? Taehyung looked almost sympathetic. Because he said if you knew, you'd go nuclear before he had proof. That is offensive. It is accurate. Jimin hated that both could be true. Taehyung continued. We tried to map the archive quietly, then someone moved faster than us. Minkook cursed under his breath. So the leaks accelerated after detection. Taehyung nodded. They knew someone was looking. Jimin paced hard enough to rattle framed canvases. He investigated this while having panic episodes, public pressure, no sleep and heart symptoms. Taehyung folded his arms. Yes. Jimin pointed toward the door. And you let him? Taehyung laughed incredulously. Let him? Since when does anyone let Jungkook do anything once he decides? That was also true. Annoyingly. Jimin dragged both hands through his hair. So he knew all this and said nothing. Taehyung's expression sharpened. He was trying to protect you. By lying. By carrying weight. Same thing. The words echoed. Taehyung went quiet. Then softer. You of all people should know the difference. Jimin stopped moving. Because that one cut with precision. Taehyung walked to a cabinet, opened it, removed a small external drive. He left this with me in case something happened. Jimin stared. Something happened. He said if he got cornered publicly, give this to you. Minkook stepped forward immediately. What's on it? Taehyung handed it not to Minkook but to Jimin. You. Jimin took it like it might explode. What is it? I never opened it. Why? Taehyung's eyes flickered with something wounded. Because he asked me to trust him. The room softened for a moment under the weight of old loyalties. Then Jimin's phone rang. Hospital. He answered before first ring ended. Yes. The doctor's voice was professional, urgent. Are you family? Jimin didn't hesitate. Yes. Taehyung's brows rose. The doctor continued. He's stable, but we found signs of severe exhaustion and arrhythmia likely worsened by prolonged stress. He needs observation. Jimin exhaled shakily. Can I come now? Yes, but there's one more issue. His stomach dropped again. What issue? There was an unauthorized attempt to access his patient file from inside the hospital network. Everyone in the apartment went still. The doctor continued. We blocked it. Do you know if he's involved in a public controversy? Jimin looked at Minkook. Then Taehyung. Then the drive in his hand. Yes, he said quietly, I know. When the call ended, nobody spoke for several seconds. Then Taehyung grabbed his keys. I'm coming. Jimin blinked. Why? Because if someone's reaching into hospital systems, this is bigger than leaks. Minkook nodded grimly. It means they're desperate. Jimin looked down at the drive. What if the answers are on this? Taehyung opened the door. Then bring them. They rushed into the rain. As they reached the parking lot, Jimin's phone vibrated again. A text from Jungkook. 3 words. Don't trust. Nothing after that. Message unsent. Or interrupted, trust. The unfinished text glowed on Jimin's screen like a wound. Rain hammered the parking lot, headlights smeared across wet asphalt. Somewhere a siren wailed through the city night. Jimin read it again. And again. 3 words, no name, no context. Just warning. Taehyung leaned over his shoulder. When was it sent? 30 seconds ago. Minkook's expression darkened, Then he still had his phone. Or someone else did, Jimin snapped. No one liked that possibility. They got into Taehyung's SUV, Jimin in front, Minseok in back. Taehyung drove like the road owed him explanations. The windshield wipers moved furiously. Jimin gripped the external drive in one hand and the phone in the other. Who would he warn me about? Taehyung kept his eyes on traffic. Anyone. Helpful. You're welcome. Minseok leaned forward. Could be someone near you physically, someone at the hospital, someone in our circle, someone in management. Jimin turned sharply. Could be you. Minseok almost smiled. Good, keep that instinct. Taehyung added, could be me too. Jimin glared at him. Do not make this philosophical. I'm making it practical. The city lights blurred by. Jimin opened the external drive on his phone using an adapter from the glove compartment. Several encrypted folders appeared. Audio. Contracts. Surveillance. One folder named only with a date. Another named IFNEEDD. His pulse spiked. He tapped it. Password required. Of course, he muttered. Taehyung glanced over, tried dramatic nonsense. What does that mean? Something emotional he'd think only you'd understand. Jimin frowned. That sentence was offensive in several directions. Try anyway. Jimin entered golden closet. Wrong. Taehyung smirked. Too obvious. Jimin tried banana milk. Wrong. Minseok from the back seat said dryly, this is surreal. Jimin ignored him. Then he froze. Years ago, after a brutal schedule. Jungkook once said something half asleep in a van, something ridiculous and sincere. When I'm too tired to talk, just stay. Jimin typed, just stay. The folder opened. Silence filled the car. Taehyung muttered, I hate that worked. Inside were videos, screenshots, logs, and one text document. Jimin opened the document first. If you're reading this, I ran out of time to explain properly. Jimin's throat tightened. I know you hate secrets, I hate them too, but I needed proof before I pulled you into this. Someone inside reactivated archive systems months ago. They've been selling fragments, threatening staff, and preparing bigger leaks. I traced payments through shell accounts. One recurring contact links company executives to an outside fixer. Name Seo Doyeon. Minseok cursed softly, I know that name. Who is he? Jimin asked. Used to clean scandals in entertainment, then disappeared. Taehyung's grip tightened on the wheel, meaning he got promoted. Jimin kept reading. If anything happens to me, don't trust whoever arrives first acting helpful. That line made everyone go still. Jimin looked slowly at Minseok in the back seat. Minseok raised both hands, reasonable suspicion. Jimin continued. And don't let them isolate you, that's how they win. There was one final line. Also, if this gets dramatic, please eat something. Taehyung barked out a shocked laugh. Jimin closed his eyes briefly. Idiot. But his voice broke. They reached the hospital to chaos. Reporters crowded the entrance behind barricades. Flashbulbs exploded. Security struggled to hold lines. Fans gathered in rain with signs and umbrellas, faces frightened. Taehyung pulled into underground parking. As they stepped out, a nurse rushed toward them. Are you with Mr. Jun? Yes, Jimin said instantly. You need to come now. They ran. The corridor outside Jungkook's room was blocked by 2 security guards and 3 hospital administrators, arguing in hushed panic. What happened? Jimin demanded. The nurse answered. He's gone. Everything inside Jimin dropped. What do you mean gone? He left the room 10 minutes ago. Left. He removed his monitor, signed no discharge papers, and walked out with someone wearing staff credentials. Jimin's voice rose, someone. We assumed approved transfer until the real cardiologist arrived. Taehyung swore violently. Minseok's face went pale, it's them. Jimin shoved past security into the room. Bed empty. Leads dangling. Blankets twisted. On the tray table sat one paper cup of untouched water and Jungkook's hospital wristband. Nothing else. Then Jimin noticed writing on the paper cup. Black marker. Look up. He spun. Ceiling vent. Taehyung climbed onto a chair, pulled it open, reached inside. He removed a second phone. Burner models. Jimin snatched it. One new video file. Recorded 2 minutes earlier. He played it. Jungkook appeared on screen, breathless, camera angled from chest level while walking quickly. If you found this, they moved faster than expected. The image shook. Behind him, a hallway. I'm going with them willingly, don't panic. Jimin shouted at the screen, too late. Taehyung pinched the bridge of his nose. Video Jungkook continued. They think I don't know who they are, good. He looked directly into the lens. Jimin, before you get angry. I'm already angry, Jimin muttered. I needed to lead them somewhere controlled. They want the archive keys, I have one. Minkook frowned, one. There are multiple keys, Taehyung asked. The video continued. Check the old rehearsal warehouse in Marpo, locker 27. Static. Then Jungkook added softly. And please don't trust Minkook completely. The video ended. All eyes turned to Minkook. He exhaled slowly, fair. Jimin stepped forward instantly. Explain now. Minkook did not retreat. I worked with Seo Doyeon once. Taehyung lunged first, grabbing Minkook by the coat and slamming him against the wall. You brought us here. No. Jimin joined, fury radiating. Then why hide it? Because I left after I learned what he was doing. Taehyung tightened his grip. What was he doing? Blackmail archives, private recordings, health records, relationship rumors, anything monetizable. Jimin's face went white. Did you sell ours? Minkook met his eyes directly. No. Why should I believe you? Because if I wanted profit, I'd never have come back. Taehyung shoved him harder. That's not evidence. Minkook's voice sharpened. Then listen carefully. Seo never leaks everything at once. He destabilizes targets, then offers rescue for a price. Jimin froze. Rescue. He remembered the PR director's urgency. Controlled narratives, clean solutions. It's extortion. Yes, Minkook said, at corporate scale. Taehyung released him with disgust. Jimin was already moving. Warehouse now. Hospital staff protested, security shouted, no one mattered. They sprinted back to the parking garage. Rain still hammered the city. As they drove toward Marpo, Jimin called Jungkook repeatedly. No answer. Again. No answer. Again. Voicemail. He slammed the phone down. Taehyung glanced sideways. You okay? No. Good means you're conscious. Jimin nearly laughed. Nearly. The warehouse district was mostly dark when they arrived. Old rehearsal buildings, storage lots, rusted shutters, puddles reflecting sodium lamps. Warehouse 14. Their former practice site from trainee years. Jimin stopped breathing for a second. I haven't been here in years. Taehyung parked. Minkook scanned the perimeter, one camera active, new. They entered through a side door already unlocked. Inside smelled of dust, wood, sweat long absorbed into walls. Ghosts lived here. Mirrors cracked along one side, scuff marks on floors, forgotten speakers in corners. Locker units lined the back hall. Jimin found 27. Padlocked. Taehyung kicked it once. Nothing. Twice. It snapped. Inside was a metal case. Jimin opened it. 3 items. A USB key. A printed ledger. And a photograph. He picked up the photo first. 7 young trainees in the same room. Arms over shoulders. Exhausted and smiling. On the back, handwriting. In case they make us forget who we were. Jungkook. Jimin's eyes burned. Taehyung opened the ledger and swore. It's payment records. Minkook looked over his shoulder. Names. Taehyung's face changed. Executives, journalists, fan account admins. Jimin gripped the USB key. This ends tonight. A slow clap echoed from the darkness upstairs. All 3 turned. A man stepped onto the catwalk above, elegant umbrella dripping beside him though he was indoors. Tailored coat. Silver watch. Pleasant smile. Seo Doyeon. You're late, he said mildly. Then Jungkook stepped into view beside him, wrists zip-tied, lip bleeding, eyes furious. Jimin moved before thought. Seo raised one hand. Several hidden red laser dots appeared across their chests. Snipers. Or enough to feel like them. Careful, Seo said, emotions make holes. Careful, Seo said, emotions make holes. The warehouse air became razor-thin. Red laser dots trembled across Jimin's chest, Taehyung's throat, Minkook's forehead. Whether they were real snipers or men with cheap scopes barely mattered. Fear obeyed symbols as easily as bullets. Jimin did not raise his hands. He stared only at Jungkook. Wrists bound behind his back, lower lip split, one eye reddening, shirt torn at the shoulder where hospital tape still clung. And somehow still trying to look calm. Jimin's voice came out deadly quiet. Did they hurt you? Jungkook answered before Seo could. Nothing permanent. Seo smiled. See, excellent customer feedback. Taehyung muttered, I'm going to kill him. Seo looked delighted. You're the artistic one, charming reputation. Taehyung took one step forward. 3 laser dots climbed to his forehead. He stopped. Seo descended the metal stairs slowly, umbrella tapping each step despite no rain inside. The sound echoed through the warehouse like a metronome for bad intentions. Up close he looked ordinary in the most sinister way. Groomed, polite, almost elegant. The kind of man built to survive in photographs beside richer men. He stopped several meters away. You brought the key. Jimin held up the USB drive. You brought a hostage. Seo shrugged. Semantics. He volunteered once he realized running would worsen his cardiac monitor readings. Jungkook spat blood onto the floor near him. Seo sighed. Temper. Jimin's jaw flexed. What do you want? Seo spread his hands. An orderly exit, archives erased, funds transferred, public sympathy redirected, your company survives bruised but alive, you 3 signed statements condemning fabricated conspiracies. Everyone heals beautifully. Taehyung barked a laugh. You rehearsed that. I value structure. Jimin's eyes narrowed. And if we refuse? Seo's smile thinned. Then more files release. Affairs that never happened. Mental health notes. Family addresses, contract disputes, selective truths, manufactured lies. By dawn, no one remembers what's real. Minkook spoke for the first time since entering. You always overplay. Seo glanced at him. You always moralize late. You're finished. Seo chuckled. People have said that since my 20s. He looked at Jimin again. Give me the key. Jimin held the USB loosely between 2 fingers. You first. Your friend. Seo tilted his head toward Jungkook. Jimin's expression didn't change. You release him first. Seo sighed as if discussing menu options. Do you know why stars fail in negotiation? No, Jimin said coldly. You mistake being loved for being dangerous. Jimin moved so fast, even Taehyung startled. He hurled the USB across the warehouse. Seo instinctively turned. That was all Jimin needed. He sprinted. The lasers jerked wildly. Shouts exploded from the catwalk. Taehyung launched sideways into a stack of crates, knocking over shelving and plunging half the room into chaos. Minkook tackled one hidden guard emerging from shadows. metal crashed everywhere. Jimin hit Seo full force. They slammed into the staircase railing. Seo was stronger than he looked. Elbow to ribs, knee to thigh, a sharp strike to Jimin's jaw that burst white sparks across his vision. Jimin answered with fury. He drove Seo backward into the rail again. Above them, Jungkook kicked one guard in the chest despite bound wrists, sending the man sprawling down steps. Jungkook, Jimin shouted. Busy. Taehyung had found a broken pipe and was using it with frightening creativity. Two men in tactical black learned immediately that elegance did not protect knees. Minkook wrestled another attacker for a pistol. A shot rang out. Everyone froze for half a second. Concrete shattered near the wall. Real guns. Not symbols. Seo grinned through blood at the corner of his mouth. Now it's interesting. He headbutted Jimin hard enough to split skin above his eyebrow and tore free, scrambling toward the fallen pistol. Jimin dove. Both hands hit the weapon at once. Seo snarled, wrenching sideways. Jimin drove his thumb into Seo's injured cheek. Seo screamed, grip loosening. The gun skidded across the floor. Taehyung kicked it under machinery. No firearms, he announced. I hate plot shortcuts. Another guard charged him. Taehyung smiled wolfishly. Excellent. On the stairs, Jungkook had pinned one man against the railing using only shoulder leverage and bad intentions. He was pale now, breathing hard. Too hard. Jimin saw it instantly. Jungkook. I'm fine. He was not fine. Sweat slicked his face, hands shaking, movements half a beat slow. Seo saw it too. Predators notice weakness professionally. He bolted not for the gun but for Jungkook. Jimin lunged to intercept. Too far. Seo hit Jungkook from the side, driving him into the railing. The metal bent with a scream. Jungkook folded, breath punched out. Jimin's world narrowed. He reached them in 3 strides and hit Seo, so hard both men crashed through the lower stair barrier. Wood splintered. They fell to the floor below in a storm of dust and debris. For several seconds no one could see. Then coughing. Movement. Jimin emerged first, bleeding from temple and forearm. Seo rose slower, limping now, smile gone. Much better, Seo rasped. There you are. Jimin walked toward him. No words. No cameras. No diplomacy. Just years of being managed, watched, packaged, threatened. Seo backed one step without meaning to. That pleased Jimin more than it should have. You sell fear, Jimin said quietly, but you've never been inside it. Seo spat blood, and you've never been without applause. Wrong thing to say. Jimin struck him once across the throat. Seo staggered. Again to the ribs. Again to the jaw. Not wild rage. Measured violence. Each hit years overdue. Taehyung shouted from above, leave some for me. Then another crash as he apparently fulfilled his own request elsewhere. Jungkook stumbled down the damaged stairs, one hand on the rail. Jimin. Jimin didn't hear. Seo reached into his coat. Jungkook saw the blade first. A knife. Seo slashed upward. Jimin jerked back too late. The blade carved across his side. Heat then cold. He gasped. Seo drove forward for a second strike. Jungkook threw himself between them. The knife plunged into Jungkook's upper arm. Everything stopped. Seo looked shocked. Jimin looked annihilated. Jungkook looked mostly annoyed. Seriously, he said through clenched teeth, again with secrets and stabbing. Then he headbutted Seo directly in the nose. A wet crack. Seo collapsed backward screaming. Taehyung vaulted the last 3 stairs like gravity offended him and planted a kick into Seo's wrist that sent the knife spinning away. Minkook cuffed Seo with zip ties from his own pocket. Poetic, he said coldly, you packed these. Sirens wailed outside. Real ones this time. Police flooded the loading entrance with weapons drawn. Hands up, down now. Everyone obeyed except Taehyung, who was still considering one more kick. Jimin dropped to his knees beside Jungkook. Blood soaked through his sleeve. Jimin's own side burned where he'd been cut, but it barely existed compared to the sight in front of him. "You idiot," Jimin whispered, voice breaking. "Why would you do that?" Jungkook swayed slightly. "Reflex. That is not a reflex. You yell a lot when worried. Stay awake. I am awake. Stay more awake." Even bleeding, Jungkook laughed weakly. Medics rushed in. They cut fabric, applied pressure, asked questions neither answered properly. Jimin kept one hand locked around Jungkook's uninjured wrist. The medics tried to separate them. "No," Jimin said. "It's easier to treat him if—" "No." The medic reconsidered life choices and worked around them. Seo, nose ruined and coat torn, was dragged past in handcuffs. He stopped long enough to smile through blood. "You think this ends with me?" Jimin didn't even look at him. Seo's smile faltered. Then Jungkook lifted his head and spoke softly. "No." Seo brightened, mistaking agreement. Jungkook continued. "It ends with no one being afraid of you anymore." Police shoved Seo forward. For the first time all night, he looked uncertain. Rain hammered the roofs. The medics loaded Jungkook onto a stretcher again. Jimin tried to follow. A medic pointed at the blood-soaking Jimin's shirt. "You too." "I'm walking." "You're bleeding." "I'm dramatic." "You're concussed." Taehyung intervened. "Sedate him if needed." "Traitor," Jimin hissed. Minkook handed over the ledger and warehouse evidence to detectives. Then looked at Jimin. "I owe all of you more apologies than fit one night." Jimin, pale now, managed a tired glare. "Start with useful ones later." At the ambulance doors, Jungkook reached out weakly. Jimin took his hand instantly. The paramedic sighed. "Fine, both of you in." Taehyung called after them, "If either dies, I'm furious." "Noted," Jimin said. Inside the ambulance, rain-streaked city lights flashed across metal walls. The siren rose. Jungkook lay strapped to the gurney, eyelids heavy. Jimin sat beside him, side bandaged roughly, hand still locked with his. For a while neither spoke. Then Jungkook murmured, "Did I look cool?" "No." "Heroic." "Annoying." "Same category sometimes." Jimin's eyes filled suddenly and helplessly. "You scared me." Jungkook turned his head slightly. "I know. That text, the hospital, the knife, all of it." "I know." Jimin lowered his forehead to their joined hands. "You don't get to know and keep doing it." A long silence. Then Jungkook whispered, "I thought if I handled it alone, you'd be safe." Jimin looked up, tears angry and bright. "And I thought if I stayed strong enough, nobody would need to protect me." The ambulance rocked through traffic. Their mistakes sat between them like old luggage. Jungkook's voice grew faint. "Maybe we're both stupid." "Definitely." A weak smile. Then softer. "Jimin." "Yes. If I had left back then." "Don't. I'm asking." Jimin squeezed his hand harder. "If you had left," he said, voice unsteady, "I would have followed eventually." Jungkook stared at him. Even exhausted, even medicated, even bleeding. He heard the truth. Before either could say more, the paramedics' radio crackled urgently. "Incoming update from dispatch. Hospital breach confirmed. Unknown persons accessed VIP ward. Possible evidence tampering. Use alternate route." The paramedic cursed. Jimin and Jungkook looked at each other. The war apparently was not finished yet. The ambulance siren cut through the rain like a blade, but inside the narrow compartment, everything had become strangely quiet. The paramedic changed routes twice, speaking rapidly into the radio while city lights flashed across metal walls and pale faces. Outside, the scandal still raged. News alerts multiplied. Names fell, executives vanished into legal offices, commentators shouted into cameras, fans cried beneath umbrellas. Inside, two exhausted men simply held on. Jimin watched Jungkook fight sleep. "Stay awake." "You keep saying that," Jungkook murmured. "Because you keep ignoring me. It's one of my talents." Jimin almost laughed, then didn't. His throat hurt too much from holding back too much for too long. The ambulance turned sharply and stopped beneath a private emergency entrance guarded by police. Doctors rushed them through secured halls. This hospital had already learned what happened at the first one. Phones were confiscated from staff entering the wing. Security cameras were checked in real time, doors locked behind every movement. For the first time all night, the world was kept outside. Jungkook was taken into surgery to repair the wound in his arm and stabilize his heart rhythm. Jimin's side was stitched in another room against his protests. He argued through anesthesia, demanded updates through bandages, nearly walked out twice. Taehyung arrived carrying dry clothes and the expression of someone who had threatened 3 reporters in the lobby. Minkook arrived with police investigators and a stack of seized files. Morning arrived grey and cold. By noon, Director Han had been formally arrested. Seo Doyeon's ledgers exposed years of bribery, intimidation, data theft, manipulated trends, and extortion. Several executives resigned before they could be dismissed. Lawsuits formed by the hour. Former trainees from multiple companies began telling stories they had buried for years. The machine had cracks now. And once cracks appear, light becomes stubborn. Jimin sat outside Jungkook's recovery room in borrowed sweatpants and hospital slippers, elbows on knees, staring at nothing. He had not slept. Nurses had offered tea, food, sympathy, and one stern lecture. He accepted only the tea. When the surgeon finally approached, Jimin stood so quickly the chair toppled. "He's okay," the surgeon said. Jimin closed his eyes. "The arm will heal. The cardiac episode was stress-related and treatable, but he needs rest, monitoring, and actual boundaries." "Can you prescribe those?" Jimin asked hoarsely. "If I could, I'd be rich." When Jimin entered the room, the lights were dimmed, machines beeped softly, rain tapped the window. Jungkook lay asleep, face calmer than Jimin had seen in months. Without cameras. Without schedules. Without performance. Just human. Jimin sat beside the bed and watched him breathe. After a long while, he spoke to the sleeping room. "I was angry at you for silence," he said quietly, "but I never noticed how loud your pain was." He rubbed tired hands over his face. "I'm sorry too." Jungkook's voice came rough from the pillow. "You talk a lot for someone who thought I was asleep." Jimin froze. "You're awake." "Unfortunately." Jimin laughed so suddenly it turned into tears. "You unbelievable person." Jungkook blinked slowly. "Did I survive heroically?" "No. Stylishly. Worse." Jungkook smiled weakly. Then he looked at Jimin's bandaged side. "You got hurt. You noticed yourself for once." "I hate that." "I know." Silence settled comfortably for the first time in years. Then Jungkook said very softly, "I'm tired of surviving like this." Jimin nodded. "Me too. So what do we do?" Jimin considered the question seriously. For once, no script existed. "No more carrying disasters alone," he said. "No more pretending exhaustion is professionalism. No more secrets disguised as protection." Jungkook watched him. "And if people are disappointed?" "Then they can be disappointed. And if things change?" "They already have." Jungkook's eyes grew wet. "You make it sound easy." "It won't be easy." Jimin leaned forward. "But it will be ours." Something in Jungkook's face loosened then, some knot tied years ago by pressure and fear. He reached out. Jimin took his hand. Days later, they chose to go live one final time. No dramatic stage, no glossy set, just a plain room with warm light, 2 chairs, and the truth. Millions joined. Jimin spoke first. "We won't explain every rumor. We won't perform pain for entertainment. But we will say this, many things happened that should never happen to young people chasing dreams. Jungkook continued. We were helped by good people and harmed by others. Both can be true. Jimin nodded. We're healing, we ask that you let others speak in their own time. Then Jungkook looked directly into the camera. And please stop romanticizing suffering. Being broken is not a requirement for greatness. The comments flooded with love, apology, gratitude, grief. For once, none of them chased the numbers. After the stream ended, they left through a side exit and drove without security to the old warehouse in Mapo. The city was clear after rain. Inside, dust still hung in sunbeams. The cracked mirrors reflected older versions of boys who had once practiced until dawn because they thought pain guaranteed arrival. Taehyung met them there with coffee. You both look terrible, he said warmly. Your face is emotionally rude, Jimin replied. Minkook arrived later, carrying legal updates and quieter eyes. There was no grand speech. No cinematic reconciliation. Just people sitting on the worn practice floor where so much had begun. They talked for hours. About fear. About ambition. About who they had been when no one knew their names. About who they wanted to be now that everyone did. At sunset, Taehyung found the old photograph from locker 27 and placed it in the center of the floor. 7 younger faces smiling through exhaustion. On the back, Jungkook's handwriting remained. In case they make us forget who we were. Jimin looked at it a long time. Then turned it over and added a new line beneath the old one. We remembered, we chose ourselves anyway. Months passed. Some careers ended. Some were rebuilt honestly. Investigations widened across the industry. Training systems changed in places that once swore they never would. Not enough. But more than before. Jungkook took time away and learned how to rest without guilt. It was harder than performing. Jimin learned that strength did not require constant usefulness. They still argued. Still teased. Still annoyed each other magnificently. But when storms came, neither disappeared into silence anymore. Years later, fans would still ask about the interview that changed everything. The question. The regret. The answer that left everyone speechless. But those who understood best knew the real answer had come later. Regret was never the biggest story. Truth was. And truth, once spoken, had given them back their lives.